It is my great pleasure to announce that the FIFA centenary celebration matches as part of the FIFA World Cup 2030 will be hosted jointly by Uruguay, Argentina and Paraguay.
For a long time, it looked like this situation would quietly fade away without any real consequences. Behind the scenes, there were clear signs that the people in charge hoped the controversy would lose momentum before any serious action became necessary. That expectation did not last very long. As more information surfaced, the pressure became impossible to ignore, and the spotlight only grew brighter with each passing day. Gianni Infantino never appeared eager to take disciplinary action against Argentina. Anyone who followed this story from the beginning could see the direction things seemed to be heading.
Strengthening the commercial side of the game is the natural next step in this evolution. So we believe that the FFE proposal would unlock the sport's potential in every corner of the world.
Journalists who reviewed the leaked letter noticed the same pattern. Football fans who watched his reaction after Ferran Torres scored also drew their own conclusions. Everything pointed toward a softer approach. It seemed he wanted to send Argentina a friendly message, praise their professionalism, congratulate Claudio Tapia, and let the investigation quietly disappear before it became an even bigger issue. Instead, the exact opposite happened. The footage spread across social media at incredible speed. The leaked letter reached journalists around the world. Ethics complaints began piling up. Norway's Football Association got involved. Fair Square pushed for accountability. UEFA also entered the discussion.
I got a few things to say about Argentina, Egypt, but I'll leave that. I'll leave that.
No, don't leave it. Let's get
Is it up there with Van der Ven and Saliba chat?
No, I think this one's more reasonable, actually. I think this one might be more reasonable.
What are you going to say about Argentina?
I just think I'm not going to say there's conspiracies. I'm not going to do all that. But what I am going to say is there's not a lot of consistency with the refereeing. I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah.
I think, you have to go off what you've been doing. And if you suddenly start changing how you view tackles, how you view fouls, where you pull the game back from, why this goal has been disallowed because of something that happened 20 minutes ago. Yeah. All of that is, to me, it starts becoming a bit dubious and strange. Like, don't do the biasness because, hey, my favourite player's on the pitch, so I'm going to start. That I don't like that, I'll be honest.
More than 23 million people signed a petition, and suddenly, the most powerful figure in football found himself under enormous public pressure with very little room to avoid responding. At that point, taking action was no longer a matter of personal preference. Every decision was being examined, every statement was being analysed, and every move was being documented by football fans, reporters, and governing bodies across the world.
It's an interesting chat to have.
Yeah.
And I understand why you're saying it. You're not alone. Loads of people are saying it.
That led to formal charges against Paredes, Molina, Almada, and Ayala, while the Argentine Football Association came under investigation for 6 separate categories of alleged violations connected to the tournament. Nobody expected this story to reach the point where FIFA could no longer stay silent. For weeks, the discussion kept growing, the questions became louder, and the pressure continued to build from every direction. What may have once seemed like a situation that could be handled quietly had now become one of the biggest talking points in world football. The spotlight was impossible to escape, and every decision carried major consequences. Reports pointed toward minimum 3-match bans for several players, with the possibility of even tougher penalties depending on the final outcome. That left Gianni Infantino facing one of the most uncomfortable situations of his time as FIFA president. Welcome back to Robert's Football Talk. I'm your host, and if you're new here, make sure to subscribe because today we're looking at how this entire situation unfolded and why it became such a difficult challenge for FIFA's leadership. The same man who publicly praised Argentina's professionalism was now overseeing a process involving allegations of serious misconduct. The same person who had previously expressed warm support toward Argentina was now expected to handle disciplinary matters involving several of their players.
But for that to be the case, FIFA would have had to have sat down with all the refs and all the officials and said, this is our game plan. We need the big heads.
That's not what I think happened, by the way. Mine's a little bit different to everyone else. I think everyone thinks they're just planning for Messi to win. Now, that's not what I think is happening. What I think is referees are human. And, you know, if your favourite player's on the pitch, you might be slightly more lenient towards him. That's what I genuinely believe.
So there's a lot of personal preference in there.
Can I ask you a question? If the goal that was disallowed for Egypt went through, it'd be 3-0, right? The game's done, respectfully. The game is actually done. There's no coming back from 3-0.
No, they were 1-0 when they scored that goal to go 2-0, and that was wiped off.
Okay.
So it went back to 1-0.
But it would have been 3-0, though. They were all over them, respectfully. They were.
The author of the letter ending with all my friendship was suddenly under intense pressure to demonstrate that FIFA's disciplinary process would be fair and impartial. This is the story of how growing public scrutiny left FIFA with very few options. More importantly, it raises questions about how this controversy affected Gianni Infantino's credibility and why so many observers viewed this moment as a major test of FIFA's leadership. To understand how everything reached this point, we have to go back to the moment when the situation started slipping beyond anyone's control. Early on, the path ahead appeared straightforward. The expectation, according to widespread reporting and public discussion, was that the investigation would move quietly, updates would remain limited, any disciplinary decisions would come much later, and attention would eventually shift elsewhere. Instead, events unfolded very differently, placing every step of the process under intense public scrutiny. The expectation may have been that attention would slowly move on. The tournament would be remembered for the football. The celebrations would dominate the headlines, and the uncomfortable moments would gradually disappear from public discussion. If that was the hope, it did not last very long.
I was saying I was quite pleased that it weren't Argentina, but then I was really sad to see Messi crying like that.
I don't want to have an argument with you, right? Not tonight. It's not tonight.
I'm not going to argue.
I think Peter, you're so disrespectful to Argentina.
No, I don't think it's disrespectful.
You are.
Roy.
Oh, look at them.
No.
You have to find different ways to win.
Yeah, but like Roy, they are very
Do,
antagonising.
No, but you don't have to like it, but a little bit of it, admire them a little bit.
Well, I did say that. My first comments were to admire them, but they played like a bag of shit. Let's be clear, they played really poorly in the game.
Everything changed when the Argentine Football Association published the letter on its official website, making it available for anyone to read. What may have been intended as a private message quickly became public, and within hours it was being covered by major outlets including the Daily Mail, Sports Illustrated, Fox News, Outkick, Sport Bible, and many others following the story. Almost overnight, the letter became one of the most talked about documents in football. Every line received close attention. The references to Argentina's professionalism, the praise for their performance, the most sincere congratulations, and the closing words, "With all my friendship," were quoted repeatedly as commentators compared the letter with the disciplinary process that was unfolding. Several media organizations highlighted what they viewed as a contradiction. Outkick argued that Infantino had either overlooked reports involving several Argentina members during the on-field confrontation, or had chosen not to address them in that message. Sports Illustrated also pointed to the contrast, noting that disciplinary charges were announced only days after the FIFA president had publicly praised Argentina's professionalism. Once the letter became public, the story spread far beyond football circles. More major outlets picked it up, including Fox News and the BBC, adding even more attention to an issue that was already gaining momentum. Any expectation that the controversy would quietly disappear was gone. Instead, FIFA's leadership found itself under constant public scrutiny, with every decision being examined in real time.
So what I would say is, to stay in the game as long as they did, you've got to hand it to them. Well done.
And the same
but
when
they played like a bag of shit.
Yeah, but when they played against Egypt, we were saying, "Oh my God, this ain't over with them." You respect what they're capable of doing.
Your eyes can sometimes, if it looks like shit and it smells like shit, it's shit. And to be fair, what we watched today, was a performance that was really poor.
That created a difficult situation for Gianni Infantino. After publicly praising Argentina in writing, he was now overseeing a disciplinary process involving the same federation. Whether those events were connected became the subject of widespread debate, and many observers questioned how FIFA would demonstrate that its process remained fair and independent. What do you think about that sequence of events? If the letter had never become public and had remained private, do you think the investigation would have attracted the same level of attention, or would the outcome have looked different? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you're enjoying the breakdown, subscribe to Robert's Football Talk because the next section looks at the growing pressure surrounding FIFA from multiple directions. Part 2 begins with the organizations and developments that increased scrutiny on the situation. One of the first was Fair Square, an international advocacy group that submitted a formal 8-page complaint to FIFA's Ethics Committee. The complaint brought together several incidents that, according to the organization, raised concerns about impartiality during the tournament. Among the points referenced were the Cape Verde comment, the widely discussed letter, and Infantino's reaction during a key match. Those details were formally submitted as part of the complaint, making them part of the official record. Another important development came from the Norwegian Football Association. Its president, Lise Klaveness, confirmed that the federation also intended to file a formal complaint with FIFA's Ethics Committee, adding further pressure as questions surrounding the tournament continued to grow. The attention was not limited to fans or social media discussions. It also came from organizations with official roles in world football. One of the most notable developments was the Norwegian Football Association, a full FIFA member association, confirming that it planned to submit a formal complaint to FIFA's Ethics Committee regarding concerns about the conduct of FIFA's president. That moved the discussion beyond public opinion and into FIFA's own institutional processes. Pressure also grew from UEFA, the governing body for European football and an organization representing 55 of FIFA's 211 member associations. UEFA publicly described its relationship with FIFA as strained and stated that certain actions had crossed what it viewed as a red line. Those comments added to the broader conversation about FIFA's leadership during the tournament. Outside football's governing bodies, public interest continued to expand. A petition reportedly gathered more than 23 million signatures from supporters around the world calling for disciplinary action related to Argentina's conduct. Whether or not petitions directly influence FIFA's decisions, the number itself reflected the level of global attention surrounding the controversy. The media also played a major role in keeping the story in the headlines. News organizations across the world published and analyzed the leaked letter, comparing its supportive language toward Argentina with the disciplinary proceedings that followed. That contrast became a recurring topic in coverage, making it increasingly difficult for the situation to fade from public view or be resolved without intense scrutiny. Another major factor was the footage itself. Several incidents involving players were captured on broadcast cameras and quickly circulated across television and social media. Moments involving Paredes, Molina, Almada, and Ayala were replayed from multiple angles, becoming part of the public discussion almost immediately. Rather than relying only on witness accounts or second-hand reports, many of the events being debated could be reviewed directly through widely available video recordings. As more organizations, media outlets, and supporters focused on the controversy, the pressure surrounding FIFA continued to grow. At that stage, it became increasingly difficult for the governing body to avoid taking visible disciplinary steps. After publicly praising Argentina in a widely discussed letter, FIFA was also expected to demonstrate that its disciplinary process would be handled independently. Any perception of inconsistency was likely to receive even greater public attention. That is why many observers argue this became one of the biggest leadership tests of Gianni Infantino's presidency. The debate was no longer centered only on the incidents during the match. It had expanded into a broader discussion about FIFA's decision-making, transparency, and whether similar situations would be handled consistently regardless of the team involved. Now we move to another important question. What do the formal charges themselves actually reveal? One point that has received a great deal of attention is that the reported charges focus on incidents that were already visible in publicly available footage. Alleged actions involving Paredes, Molina, Almada, and Ayala had already been replayed and discussed extensively by broadcasters and news organizations before FIFA's disciplinary process became public. Supporters of this view argue that these allegations were based on moments that millions of people had already seen for themselves, rather than on information uncovered later through a lengthy investigation. Whether that interpretation is ultimately correct is open to debate, but it has become a central part of the discussion surrounding FIFA's response and the timing of its disciplinary actions. Looking at the disciplinary process, one argument raised by commentators is that the reported charges focused on incidents that were already widely documented and available in the public domain. In other words, the allegations centered on moments that had already been captured on broadcast footage and discussed extensively before FIFA's investigation became public. Critics have also pointed to what they say was not included in the process. They questioned whether there would be broader reviews into Argentina's overall conduct during the tournament, further examination of controversial VAR decisions from multiple matches, an independent assessment of referee appointments, or formal public responses to concerns reportedly raised by football authorities and officials from countries including Egypt, Switzerland, and England. FIFA's public handling of those issues became part of the wider debate surrounding the tournament. Because of that, some observers argue that FIFA addressed only the matters that were already impossible to ignore, while leaving larger questions unanswered. Others disagree with that interpretation, but the discussion has continued long after the tournament ended. Whether the disciplinary action represented a complete response or only the minimum required remains a point of disagreement among fans, journalists, and analysts. So what do you think? Do the reported disciplinary measures help restore confidence in how the tournament was managed, or do they leave too many questions unresolved? Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments. The next chapter shifts to another side of this story that receives far less attention. Throughout the controversy, much of the focus remained on Argentina and FIFA, but one team was often left out of the conversation. Spain lifted the World Cup trophy, earned the title of world champions, and defeated Argentina in the final, with a performance that many supporters and analysts regarded as one of the strongest displays ever seen in a World Cup final. One part of this story rarely gets the attention it deserves. While most of the headlines focused on investigations, leaked letters, and FIFA's leadership, the team that actually won the tournament often seemed to fade into the background. The champions should normally be the center of the conversation, yet much of the discussion after the final revolved around everything except Spain's achievement. The final itself was remarkably one-sided in several key areas. Spain finished with 20 shots compared to Argentina's 2 and controlled around 65% of possession. Emiliano Martinez produced 11 saves, highlighting the amount of pressure Spain created throughout the match. Despite that performance, many observers noticed that FIFA's public messaging appeared far more detailed when addressing Argentina than when congratulating the tournament winners. Spain received a brief congratulatory message, while the separate letter sent to Argentina was noticeably longer and more personal in tone. Spain's squad also drew praise for the way they handled themselves after the tournament. Head coach Luis de la Fuente spoke about the competition with composure, and many of the players kept the focus on football rather than controversy. Rodri was involved in one of the match's heated moments, yet remained composed after the final whistle. Gavi was at the center of another widely discussed incident that later became part of FIFA's disciplinary process. Since the final on July 19, much of the conversation surrounding FIFA has centered on Argentina, the leaked letter, the investigation, and the decisions made by football's governing body. As a result, Spain's World Cup triumph has often shared the spotlight with a controversy that continued long after the trophy had been lifted. For many supporters, the lasting conversation after the World Cup was not focused on the champions alone. Instead, attention remained fixed on the controversy surrounding FIFA, the leaked letter, and the disciplinary proceedings that followed. As those stories dominated headlines, Spain's achievement often received less attention than many fans expected after such an impressive tournament. Spain lifted the trophy with a commanding performance, yet much of the post-tournament discussion centered on FIFA's leadership rather than the football itself. The contrast between the brief public congratulations for the champions and the much more detailed letter sent to Argentina became another talking point for critics who questioned FIFA's messaging during that period. Whether intentional or not, that difference fueled ongoing debate across the football world. Many supporters believe Spain deserved to have their victory celebrated more prominently by football's governing body. Instead, the spotlight remained on the controversy, leaving the champions sharing the headlines with questions about FIFA's handling of the tournament and the decisions made afterward. If you're enjoying this breakdown, subscribe to Robert's Football Talk and share this video because the final section brings everything together and looks at what these events could mean going forward. Part 5 focuses on the bigger picture. According to many critics, Gianni Infantino appeared reluctant to take disciplinary action against Argentina. They point to the friendly letter that was sent while the disciplinary process was still ongoing, and the praise for Argentina's professionalism during a period when FIFA's disciplinary bodies were reportedly reviewing footage of several incidents from the tournament. those events became central to the broader debate about FIFA's leadership, consistency, and public credibility. The timeline is one of the main reasons this story continues to generate debate. Critics point out that Claudio Tapia received a congratulatory letter containing most sincere congratulations shortly after FIFA had opened a formal disciplinary process involving the Argentine Football Association. For many observers, that sequence of events raised questions about how the situation was being handled and whether FIFA's public messaging matched the seriousness of the ongoing investigation. As the controversy grew, pressure came from several different directions. Fair Square submitted a formal complaint. The Norwegian Football Association announced its own ethics complaint. UEFA publicly voiced concerns about its relationship with FIFA. Major media organizations closely examined the leaked letter, and widely shared match footage kept the incidents in the public eye. Together, these developments created sustained scrutiny that made every decision by FIFA's leadership a subject of intense discussion. Another point raised by commentators is that the reported disciplinary cases focus primarily on incidents already captured on widely available video. Critics argue that FIFA addressed the allegations supported by publicly available footage, while broader questions surrounding the tournament remained unresolved. They also noted the absence of public explanations regarding issues such as the reported complaints from Egypt, concerns linked to referee appointments, and earlier remarks that had already attracted attention during the competition. Supporters and critics continue to disagree over whether FIFA's response was sufficient. Reports indicate that Paredes, Molina, and Almada could face suspensions beginning at 3 matches if the allegations are upheld, while the Argentine Football Association has also been reported to be facing proceedings involving multiple categories of alleged tournament-related violations. At the same time, Spain's Gavi was also included in the disciplinary process, highlighting that the review was not limited to one side alone. There is also another chapter to this story that has not yet been written. The complaints submitted by Fair Square and the Norwegian Football Association to FIFA's Ethics Committee remain part of the wider discussion, and many people are watching to see whether any further action or findings emerge from that process. Until then, questions about FIFA's leadership and decision-making are likely to remain part of the conversation. For many critics, the disciplinary measures announced so far do not represent the clear conclusion they were hoping for. Supporters, journalists, and football figures from several countries have continued debating whether the response addressed every major concern raised during the tournament or whether important issues still remain unanswered. The discussion has expanded well beyond individual incidents and now focuses on how football's governing bodies should demonstrate consistency, transparency, and accountability. Another major point of disagreement is why FIFA ultimately moved forward with disciplinary action. Some observers believe the organization acted because the combination of media attention, public scrutiny, official complaints, and widely available match footage made inaction increasingly difficult. Others reject that interpretation and argue the disciplinary process should be viewed independently. Regardless of where people stand, the debate has become one of the defining stories to emerge after the tournament. Many supporters also believe Spain's achievements deserve far greater recognition once the final whistle had blown. Instead, much of the attention remained on FIFA, the leaked letter, and the investigations, rather than on the team that lifted the trophy. That brings us to the end of this breakdown. We have looked at the leaked letter, the rapid shift in public attention, the growing institutional pressure, the disciplinary process, and the broader questions surrounding FIFA's leadership during the tournament. Now, it's your turn to join the discussion. 3 questions for you. Do you think FIFA handled this situation fairly? Did the disciplinary response go far enough? And what do you think should happen next? Share your answers in the comments below. Before we wrap this up, I want to hear what you think, because this story has sparked debate all over the football world. First, do you think Gianni Infantino genuinely supports the disciplinary process, or do you believe FIFA acted only after the pressure became impossible to ignore? Second, do you think Spain deserved more recognition from FIFA after winning the World Cup? Or was the attention on the controversy simply unavoidable? Third, what do you expect from the FIFA Ethics Committee's review? Will it lead to meaningful action, or do you think the process will end without any major outcome? Drop your answers in the comments below. I read as many comments as I can, and I always enjoy seeing different opinions and debates from football fans around the world. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to see more deep dives into the biggest stories in football, make sure you like this video, share it with your friends, and send it to any football fan who loves discussing the game. Every like, comment, and share helps the channel reach more people and allows us to keep making videos like this. And if you're new here or haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. There are plenty more football stories, analysis, and behind-the-scenes breakdowns coming soon here on Matchio. Thanks for watching, take care, and as always, peace.